Welcome to the Career Change Podcast, where you'll discover the frank and practical advice and resources that are already proven to work in the real world when it comes to changing careers or figuring out what business is right for you when you are a smart but likely also stuck, overwhelmed, or overthinking person in your mid-30s, your 40s, your mid-50s. I'm your host, Rikke Hansen, a career change advisor, entrepreneur, and former corporate HR professional with over 15 years experience of helping thousands of people just like you identify or create careers or businesses that are both meaningful and future-proof. Welcome home. Hey, it's Rikke here, and welcome to episode 4 of the Career Change Podcast, where I'll answer the question, is now the right time to change careers or start a business? Now, if there's one question, almost more than any other question that I've been asked this year, it really is that one. Is now the right time to change careers or start a business? Followed by, with everything going on in the world right now. Now, generally, if people ask me this question, it's because they haven't yet made up their mind about their own answer yet. And because they haven't done that, that means they're much more swayed by external factors, the state of the world, the news, and other people's opinion. Also, because they haven't yet decided to commit to their transition, i.e. committing to figuring out what's next for them and to making it happen, they're often kind of window shopping or dabbling. Their transition is just something they sometimes spend some time thinking about or worrying about, but they don't spend as much time, resources, or energy on it as they do on Netflix or social media or following the news or doom scrolling. So because of that input, it's therefore easier for them to be swayed, to think that now is not the right time because it can seem like there's so much uncertainty and a total focus on what is not working in the world. And also, they might have very little to look forward to because they're still stuck in a work scenario they're not happy in. But there is another way, because here's the deal. On the other hand, for people who are committed to making a change, they will make the best of the circumstances no matter what. They will course correct as need be, rather than keep getting swayed or distracted or second guessing because of what's happening in the world. They're very aware that continual uncertainty existed even before COVID-19. And that is, interesting enough, a very novel concept for us humans anyway, to think that we know what the future will bring. People who are committed to their transition, they are highly protective of what information and what influence they let into their mind, what they spend their time on, and what they base their decisions on. They use their own full agency, and they don't outsource their transition to whatever the news story of the day is. They are committed with a big C. So my short, twofold answer to the question, is now the right time to change careers or start a business, is this. It's always the right time if you decide it is and you commit 100% to making it so. It's never the right time if you're not willing to decide it is, and if you're not willing to commit 100% to making it so. That's it. End of story. The right time to change careers or start a business is when you are willing to decide and commit upfront, to move past dabbling and past the commitment point. Here's an important thing, and I don't know about you, where you are in your transition or how much you know about the process, but your transition, or rather your commitment to your transition, doesn't start once you have everything figured out and you're ready to launch. People often have this idea that this magical point where it all comes together and it all gets clear, and at that stage, maybe I should commit. It doesn't work like that. There is no before or after kind of magic point where everything comes together. It's a process. And it takes a while, and every step is absolutely vital to be committed to. So don't delay getting started, and don't delay committing. Your transition starts with a decision to commit 100% to it up front and to make it your key priority, to stick it out and to make it happen, right? Everything else is dabbling. Staying stuck, worrying, keep being swayed, dilly-dallying. Wouldn't you rather be 100% committed? Here's the deal, and I'll be really frank with you. There is no half-assing your career change. There is no half-assing being an entrepreneur, starting a business, especially not right now. Your timeline and your game plans can absolutely and should be agile and flexible, but your commitment cannot. Every single person I've helped change careers, start a business, and also how it worked for myself, it was because I was 100%, because my clients were 100% committed. There is no half-assing this. The most important things in life, you need to give them your 100% commitment. So if you're stuck right now, maybe that's worth considering, all right? Now, don't worry. We are not talking about blind, unrealistic, Pollyanna-ish commitment, nor are we talking about knee-jerk reactions or throwing it all away or quitting things without having other income sources lined up. This is about deciding and committing and making it happen in an intelligent, thought-out manner where you are calling the shots. This is about you being smart and smart enough to course correct and change your mind and staying flexible and being agile, depending on what happens post-commitment. But the commitment to figuring it out and making change happen is there. Now, here's an interesting thing that you might have noticed. Unmade decisions are exhausting. Unmade decisions are exhausting. When you haven't decided, you're dilly-dallying, you're window shopping, you might be swayed by whatever a president is tweeting one day, what the news shows, whatever is happening, whatever the developments are, and that sways you and make you second guess. But once you make the commitment, what you will find is that energy is freed up, focus is there, versus when you aren't committed, you'll be even more exhausted and unfocused. With a decision made and a commitment there, you create the motivation yourself. You make things happen. You will stay informed, but with clear purpose. You will use your own agency to drive this thing forward. Now, here's an interesting thing. I've been advising people on career change and entrepreneurship since 2005, and I've reached thousands of people, and bar a handful, none of the people I've helped change careers or start a business or change jobs, none of those people had what could be considered perfect circumstances or perfect times during the history of the world. I have had a lot of clients with serious disease, going through divorce, full-time working mom and dad and SARS and recession and certain presidencies and you name it across the spectrum. There is no such thing as a perfect time. There just isn't. I can tell you that. And it's not going to change going forward neither. However, what you can control is your commitment. But let's talk a little bit about the C word, COVID-19, because a lot of people are arguing that this time it's different and there's so much unpredictability and so much instability and we should all just cover in fear and wait for things to return to normal. Now, that argument might have been sound if COVID-19 was just a matter of all of us staying inside for 1 month and then go back to the proverbial normal. But that's not what it's turning out to be. Here we are, many, many months into an ever-unfolding scenario where the repercussions are going to be felt for a very, very long time, and where the governments in so many countries are not up to this task neither. So you and I, we're going to have to look after each other, to help each other, and also to look after ourselves. One thing, this is a public podcast, so I need to say this. If right before we go into the discussion, if right now you are experiencing severe acute financial difficulties or severe mental or physical health issues, then that should be your number one focus right now. Please seek professional advice. And then you might want to come back to this particular episode later. But let's just make that clear. For everyone else, I totally get that right now, the amount of uncertainty and unpredictability that's going on right now can be downright exhausting and off-putting. I think we all have experienced the entire roller coaster of emotions within the space of a day, day after day after day. I get that can be exhausting. It can be disorienting. We definitely have to take even more care of ourselves. And if you didn't have that in place before, now is definitely the time to start. We've probably discovered things about ourselves or partners or families that would otherwise have taken a lifetime. But here's the deal. You're listening to this. That means you're still here. Human beings are a stubborn, resilient race. Give yourself a pat on the back. You are actually moving through this period. We are moving through this, you and I. And since this is not a short-term thing, we're going to have to figure out how to make it work for us and how to make it work for all transition. So often people, they ask me, Rikke, how do you cope with this mentally? What do you say to yourself? What do you recommend with your clients? How do they deal with this monster COVID-19? Let me tell you how I personally cope and what I tell myself. First of all, this is an incredible, potentially once in a lifetime boot camp opportunity. This is a real life boot camp in uncertainty. And what's really interesting is that the skills that you can choose to develop right now are literally also the very skills that will fuel and empower your transition into something new, whether that's a new career, a new job, your own business, or the next business. So this is a chance for you right now to develop key skills as and when you need them. So whatever is happening from now on, you're like, oh, not that too. What's happening next? Go, all right, what is the learning opportunity here? Right? What do I need to do here? Where do I need to grow? What do I need to stop? What do I need to start? The world is not going to get any less certain. There's always something lurking around the corner. Like even if we were to go back to quotation marks, no more. There will be a new election, a new disaster, a new disease. This is the territory now, and it always was. Now it's just there's a global light shining on everything. This is our chance to learn to navigate, to develop these navigation skills on turbo. One thing, I think it goes without saying that you do also at the same time need to prioritize building resilience and taking care of yourself and regulate yourself emotionally. So if you didn't have that in place before, because I think a lot of what's making people extra exhausted right now is they didn't have the self-care, the resilience, the emotional regulation down before this all happens. And now it's a gaping, void that's becoming obvious. But it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to spend all day sleeping and not thinking about your career change. You can do both at the same time. Because what's happening when you focus on your transition, it will energize you, it will fuel you. I did a recording back a couple of months ago about resilience and about how to take care of yourself at the same time as making a change. Because here's the thing, you need to do things that make you feel safe on a daily basis in order to do things that might feel scary or new to you. So if you go over to the Career Change podcast, click on the link for this episode number 4, I will add a link to Career Change and Resilience to that recording. You might want to listen to that if you're struggling with taking care of yourself, because that's so important as well. But really what COVID-19 has done to the world of work is to catapult us into the future. So it's not necessarily that it's something massively new that's happening. It's more that for the workplace, it's more that it has massively sped up and accelerated developments and trends and massive changes that were already happening. But now we're being fast forwarded 5 to 10 years into the future. So this is now a world of work with a lot less permanent jobs, with more contracts, with more remote working, with a global workforce competing for jobs, but also at the same time a move more towards portfolio careers, self-employment, collaborations, online business, an increase of AI, automation. So even before COVID-19, we knew things were changing dramatically in the world of work, and that we all at some stage were going to have to change in some capacity. But maybe we ignored it. But now, or we were too comfortable. I don't know. People have got different scenarios. But now, in a post-COVID-19 world, it's clearer than ever that we are all going to have to change. And it's likely going to happen earlier than we thought. But here's the deal. If you are listening, and thank you for listening, to a podcast called the Career Change Podcast, then I'm assuming it's because you're actually keen to change, to create work that you actually love, that you care about. So all of these changes, turn them into motivational fuel. Let them encourage you to get on with it. Here's why. Especially if you want to be the one initiating and having a good amount of control and choice over the process versus waiting and worrying and then being forced to change down the road, but potentially way fewer options and no runway. I really want to take care of you here. All right? So let's talk about 3 key points that I also want to make to further answer the question, is now the right time to change careers or start a business? Number 1, now is the right time if you need a change. Number 2, now is the right time to expand your options and do your own thing. And number 3, now is the right time to make COVID-19 your permission slip. So let's go straight into number 1. Now is the right time if you need a change, i.e., make sure you're solving the right problem versus knee-jerking or doing stupid things. Because here's the thing, yes, it is always the right time to change careers or start a business if that is what you need. People seriously underestimate the cost and the risk of staying stuck for too long in a career or professional job they've totally outgrown, they come to hate, where they end up de-skilling themselves, not achieving, not learning. That, my friend, is not a safe option to wait and see in. One of the things I often talk to my clients about is this business concept that can also be used for the transition process, which is the cost of delay. Just get really clear, what is it actually costing you to delay your transition? With a lot of my clients, the cost of things like mental health issues, physical health issues, relationship issues, money issues, loss of potential issues, all of those kind of things. Get really, really clear about that. That will fuel you too. You need to know what you're up to optimize for, all right? However, that's if you need a change. If you don't need a change, now is not the right time to change careers or start a new business if that's not actually the solution to your problem. Here's something that might surprise you. One of the big things that I noticed over the last 15 years is that a lot of people, they see changing careers or starting a business as a solution to all kinds of problems that actually have nothing to do with work. Right? Anything from marital issues to personal issues that have nothing to do with what they're facing at work. But they think, but if I change careers or start my own business, then I can solve that problem, when the problem they're facing is actually not of a work nature. So if that's you, that's really important to get clear about. You know that friend who always dates the unavailable guy or the non-committing girl, and they do it again and again because they haven't figured out that that's their problem and they need to change. It's exactly the same thing with careers, with businesses. Make sure you're solving the right problem. If not, you will end up replicating that very same problem in a new career or in a business. Rule number 1. Let's make sure you figure out what is your problem. Do you actually need a change in your work life, or is it something else that you need a change in? Okay, that is really, really clear. So one of the first things I always do with my clients, whether that's inside my online program or my one-on-ones, is to figure out, do you need a change? And if so, how much of a change do you need and why? i.e., what is your problem and therefore what are the solutions? Because once you're clear about what your problem is, then that would already give you initial hints and directions as to where to go next. And it will also help you understand how you can build on everything that you've learned and done so far, so you don't go empty-handed into the next stage. This is especially key if you're over 35. One of the things I give people very quickly into work with me is what I call the job versus profession test. And this is something you can also do, I'll explain that briefly, is to think about, are the things that you hate about your current job actually more surface factors, overlying factors that might be to do with the company culture, your boss, or your commute, or certain things that are not necessarily to do with your profession and are therefore maybe easily solvable? Or are they more underlying factors that are more to do with your profession, the kind of work that you do, the subject that you deal with, the future prospects, the kind of things that actually, you don't just need a job change, you actually need to change profession, right? Often a horrible boss or horrible company culture can make you question everything, whereas maybe it's not that big a change that's needed. But on the other hand, maybe it is that you are fundamentally unhappy with your profession. That is so important to get clear about, all right? Also, a good indication as to whether you need a change is how much you can see yourself staying there for the next 5, 10, 15, 25 years. No matter what age you are, you're going to have to work longer than you think. So you're going to want to see yourself there, and also keep going deeper, keep learning more. If that's not how you see yourself in your profession, that's also another good sign that you need to change. But here's what I want you to do. Commit to finding out what your problem is. Commit to figuring out how much of a change you need and why. Commit to figuring out and solving your real problem. And remember, a career change doesn't have to be a matter of all or nothing. You can do it in stages. And, whether it's a job change, a career change, starting a business, doing a business, something new, something related to where you are right now, there are so many solutions. So yes, it's the right time if you need a change and if it's the right thing for you. If not, it's not. I would have to say, though, since you're listening to this podcast, I have a feeling that you might be right for a change. Okay? Now let's go into point number 2. Now is the right time to expand your options and do your own thing. I.e., this is not a good time to have only one option and do nothing. One of the existing job market trends that COVID-19 have massively sped up is the decrease in and use of permanent jobs by employers. So right now, especially if you're not happy, it's not a good time to do nothing and to wait and worry and outsource your agency to just one employer and to not know what other options that you have. Now is the right time to really look at and understand what's going on with the way work is being offered and carried out, and to really, my friend, take care of yourself and not put all of your eggs in one basket, especially if you are not happy in that job, that profession, and you know a bigger change is needed. Now is the right time to use your own agency, your own ability to do something, and to consider doing your own thing, which you might have been wanting to do all along, if you allow yourself to think that way. Now, even though I think we all know by now that the job for life is not a reality anymore, and it hasn't been for quite a long time, there's still this idea lingering that having a job is the only safe option, especially for those of us over 35. That's kind of how we were brought up. And a lot of people haven't realized that the world has changed. And don't get me wrong, there are many benefits to having a job, and the employment route could still be right for you. It is for some of my clients. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is taking care of yourself up front right now and creating alternative options and knowing what your options are ahead of time in a world where redundancies and continual decreases in permanent jobs is now a reality. And therefore we're relying on just one source of income and outsource all of your power to that one employer. In effect, only have one client. That is increasingly becoming a more vulnerable position. But let's talk about how to use this knowledge to actually speed up and benefit your transition. And let's talk about why now is the right time to rethink employer relationships and to seriously consider also doing your own thing. Like I said, this is not your only option, but I am so keen to normalize entrepreneurship and portfolio careers for smart people over 35 as an incredible way to fast track and speed up and really materialize your career transition, no matter how much of a change you want. This is the right time to start getting used to thinking about yourself as an entrepreneur, as a personal enterprise, or to consider a portfolio career. This is the time to start thinking about and start creating several sources of income, either within your current line of work or in something new, or by combining your existing career and adding something new. There's so many ways of doing this. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can test drive it wherever you are at right now. And by the way, if you are the multi-passionate type who's got loads of ideas and loads of things you want to do, this is ideal for you. You might want to listen back to, that was episode 2 about that. But really the mindset shift here is one shift from thinking like an employee to thinking like an entrepreneur, like a personal enterprise, like a portfolio careerist. So I know that can be hard if you've always been an employee, but this is the way that you can really make this work for you. So what might be ways for you to start consulting, to start working for several clients, to start putting something out there, whether it's an online business, a program, consulting, products, experiences, whatever it is. Think like an entrepreneur. Here's how you think about that. What is the problem that you solve that you've already got results in? Or what is the problem that you would love to solve? What are the experience that you provide? What's the market you most want to serve? One of the great things about being in charge, being an entrepreneur, being a portfolio careerist is that you can have, it's up to you what kind of clients you want to serve. serve clients you actually enjoy. Oh man, one of the biggest issues I have had that my clients have told me over the years, one of the main reasons why they wanted some kind of change is because they hate the client group they work with. Maybe you can relate to that yourself, or maybe not hate, but they wouldn't be the ones you would choose if you could. That's why having several clients will give you the opportunity to more handpick your clients, okay? Like I say, this is where adding an online arm to your career, to your business can change everything and massively speed up your transition. This is one of those things with most clients nowadays. That is what I ask them to consider. So you can start owning your own virtual breadcrumb trail when people Google you. If right now I got to know your name and I Googled you, what would I see? And is that the professional identity, the business, the career you want me to know about you? Or how can you start owning that? So commit to figuring out what you can do, what you can start doing your own thing. What are your own best options? What are your options? Start creating those alternative options. This is such a great way to start your initial step on the way to something much bigger. Like I say, don't be intimidated. Look forward to getting started, even if it feels wobbly at first. Wobbly is the new normal. I know that can be hard for those who are perfectionists, but here's the deal. Nobody expects perfection right now, so don't shoot yourself in the foot. Right now is not a good time to do nothing and to just hope for a return to normal, especially if you already wanted to change then, and to not face what's going on. Like I said before, we now know this is not just going to be over in a jiffy. So this is an ongoing scenario with repercussions we are only just starting to see. So this is the time to start creating several sources of income, start working with several clients, and make your career transition happen in the process. All right. Knowing your options and starting to create them. That is something we all have the option to doing, and you should want to. And that's also how you can start experimenting with different things. If you listen to episode 3, all around analysis paralysis, I was really big on that. Once you're past 35, if you've been in the same line of work for a while, sometimes the biggest issue is you totally lost touch with yourself and don't know who you are and what you like. Experimenting by offering smaller things and having an online business, doing a course, offering consulting, that is a great way of experimenting on the side with a view to building more and more of it, okay? One of my favorite quotes is by Annie Dillard. How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. This is an unfolding scenario. Don't wait. Number 3, now is the right time to make COVID-19 your permission slip, i.e. permission to explore alternatives with a solid excuse. What is the unique window of opportunity that COVID-19 is giving you, and what are you going to do about it? What is COVID-19 making possible for you or giving you the opportunity or permission to finally do? This is so important. A couple of months ago, I read this really great short article in The Atlantic by a guy called David Brooks, and it's called A Commencement Address Too Honest to Deliver in Person. And when people graduate, there's these commencement addresses, and even though it was written to people coming straight out of uni who might be 21, I thought a lot of this is really relevant to my people. Those of us, 35, 45, 55, that's so much more, that's just as relevant. Here's what he said. You happened to have graduated into a global emergency that has interrupted everything. That whole career track that you've been worrying about, fundamentally interrupted. Don't see this as a void. See it as a permission slip. Let me repeat that. Don't see this as a void. See it as a permission slip. Use this to do something you would never have done if this emergency hadn't hit. And then a bit later on, try to do something that people will ask you about for the rest of your life. This should be your recommencement speech moment. What are you going to do with this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? I have definitely noticed there's something massive shifting right now. There are a lot of people seriously questioning how they spend their working lives up until this moment and to wanting a change. Please promise me you'll be one of the ones who don't just think about it, but you actually commit to doing something about it. Here's how that's so interesting. Now, one of the interesting things about turning this into a permission slip is that one thing I've often noticed with people from certain professions, where they might have worked for many years to get to a certain place. There's a certain ego and lifestyle attached. Before COVID-19, they were very worried about even trying something new in case they messed up. But here's the thing. For the next couple of years, nobody's going to wonder why you messed up or why you left something and why something didn't work out. Let's say worst case scenario. Then you can always go back. That wasn't really an option before, because if you messed around, people would judge you. Now, for the next couple of years, there are going to be so many ways you can say, oh, COVID made me do it, and this is because of COVID. So use that as an excuse to finally explore, to finally do what you wanted to do. Worst case scenario, go back to where you were and then start all over again and have another stab. And this is worst case scenario. It's probably going to work out for you, but just think about this like a permission slip, like an excuse. What are you going to do about it, my friend? That one beautiful life you have. Maybe you already knew before COVID-19 you needed a change, but you were too comfortable, life was too easy, or at least it looked like that. Now, this should really remind you that life is short and you would want to do something incredible with the work life, bearing in mind how many hours we spend at work, especially if you are also working from home. You have so many more opportunities to finally start spending time creating those alternatives. And you should want to. That's how you take care of yourself, not by staying in fear, not doing anything. All right? Now, here's the thing. We are all going to have to change in some capacity. The question is, when do you start? And do you start from a place of creating options and becoming the main agent of change for yourself? Or do you want to have it forced on you? My friend, this is both your permission slip and your wake-up call. And remember, you don't need to feel ready. You get ready by doing. That's how it works. And yes, it'll feel wobbly, but we're all going to wobble together, right? Better to wobble than to stay stuck and in fear, all right? Welcome to the other side. What if it felt like home? We always tend to think, a lot of us are trained to think worst case scenario. Start thinking best case scenario and start creating them from wherever you are right now. Welcome to the other side. What if it felt like home? All right. 2 things. If you like this podcast, you're finding it helpful, please leave a review over on Apple, over on iTunes. Let me know how you like it. And of course, subscribe. Also, remember, this podcast is based on questions from my subscribers. So make sure you're subscribed to my newsletter. All you need to do is to go over to thecareerchangepodcast.com and sign up for the newsletter. And let me know, what do you want me to talk about? How can I help you? What do you want to be covered in the podcast? All right? I'll see you over there. Now, over to you. What are you going to do? Commit or dabble? Do you want to feel powerful? Then commitment is the way. Remember, this is not about knee-jerking or throwing it all away or doing something stupid. This is about making it even better in an intelligent, step-by-step manner. I'm right there with you, my friend. I'll see you over at thecareerchangepodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. We've got this.